This is lesson 4.5, and before we even start, you need to make sure that you have your notebook out and something to write with. The expectation is that you take notes when you're watching this video, and if I'm moving too fast, just press pause and even rewind the video if you have to. This lesson is going to help us understand the question, are two triangles congruent? So I have two goals for today. First, we're going to apply something called SSS and SAS to construct triangles and solve problems. Notice that the word construct is in there, and that means that we'll be using your compass next time in class, so make sure that you bring it. The second goal is we're going to use something called SSS and SAS as shortcuts to prove triangles are congruent. Note the word prove in there, and I also hope you're thinking about our lesson last time, as we talked about proving triangles congruent there as well. In the last lesson, we discussed what it means to be congruent, and specifically we talked about what it would take to prove two triangles are congruent. And what we discovered was that all three angles and all three sides in both triangles need to be congruent in order to prove that the two triangles are congruent. This meets the definition of congruency. And remember, the triangles have to be the same size and the same shape. This seems like a lot of work. You have to show three angles and three sides from one triangle are congruent to three angles and three sides from another triangle in order to show they're congruent. Wow. This is way too much work. And this leads me to ask, is there an easier way? Is there any shortcuts? I have good news for you. There are many shortcuts, and today I'm going to show you two of them. The first shortcut we can use to prove two triangles are congruent is called SSS. SSS stands for side, side, side. Basically what it means is that if you can show that three sides from one triangle are congruent to three sides in another triangle, then those two triangles have to be congruent. It works every time. Why is this a shortcut? Last time we had to show 6 things were congruent. 3 sides and all 3 angles from one triangle are congruent to 3 sides and 3 angles in another triangle. But now with the shortcut, we only have to show 3 things are congruent, 3 sides. This is much better and makes for much less work. Is there any other shortcuts? Before we can learn the next shortcut, we need to learn a vocabulary word. Look at the drawing and you will notice that 2 sides are marked along with the angle in between the 2 sides. That angle in between the 2 sides, the angle which is actually created by the 2 sides, is called the included angle. Let's see how this is used in a shortcut. The next shortcut is called SAS, and it's short for side, angle, side. If 2 sides and the included angle are congruent to the same corresponding sides and included angle in another triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. Again, this is a shortcut because it means you only have to prove 3 things from a triangle: side, angle, side.
Still paging Leah Potter. Leah Potter, please go to Miss Rose's room.
Are congruent to
and
3.
Michael Noland. I want to remind you, University of Puget Sound is here this afternoon in the conference room across from the office. You have debate after school in Miss Rose's room. Thank you.
Let's look at how you use one of these shortcuts. In the drawing, I have 2 triangles that share a common side. If you look, side AC is shared. The first thing I'm going to do is draw them separately, which I have done on the side. The question I'm trying to answer here is whether or not triangle ABC is congruent to triangle ADC. And let's go step by step through following the numbers I have labeled. If you look at step 1, side AB is congruent to side AD because it's given to us. Second step, side BC is congruent to side DC because it is also given to us. I got both of those steps from the original drawing and the markings that were on the sides of the triangles. Lastly, if you look at step 3, it says AC is congruent to AC. That might be confusing, but look at the triangles drawn separately and you will see that there are 2 separate triangles that both have a side AC. And this step is just saying that those sides are congruent. Why are they congruent? Because they're the same. You could actually write same side for the reason for step 3, or use the property of mathematics called the reflexive property as your reason. Lastly, the 2 triangles are congruent because 3 sides from one triangle are congruent to 3 sides in the other triangle, which is the congruence shortcut SSS, side, side, side. There you have it. This is basically a proof of why the triangles are congruent, and I have used the shortcut SSS. Lastly, and to wrap up the video, please remember that these are just shortcuts. They save you time in proving triangles are congruent. You use these in proofs and geometry as reasons, and please make sure that you have the drawings written in your notes, as students often find referring to the drawings helpful in remembering the shortcuts. As you work on problems in this lesson, please use all the resources your book has to offer to help you, and please help one another in class so everyone can do their absolute best.